So the damage happened right there.
Oh, God! Oh, God!
What is going on, UFC card lovers? Welcome back here for another weekly video at UFC Card Talk. My name is Damien, and if you're new to the channel, here at UFC Card Talk, I talk about everything to do with UFC cards, from both collecting and investing, and also recent UFC card hobby news. This week's episode is going to be all about cracking slabs, cracking out those 9.5s in hopes to send them to PSA to get some PSA 10. So I'm going to be undertaking a little bit of an experiment, sacrificing my 9.5s in order to see what happens. We cross-grade those cards over to PSA, hopefully if they get 10s or not. As you can see, my hair's out this week. I haven't shaved. I'm out here looking like Tom Hanks, straight out of Castaway.
Well, we might just make it. Did that thought ever cross your brain?
If you're new to the channel, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit the notification bell, because I do have weekly videos coming out all about UFC cards, so stick around. Now let's get into this week's video. I'm going to be showing you guys exactly how I cracked my slabs. Now, a bit of a disclaimer, guys. I may have mentioned before, but I've worked in construction since I was 17 years old. So I've worked in construction for over half my life now, and I am very comfortable with using hand tools. So this for me wasn't so much of a problem. Leading into doing it, I was super confident. You're going to see, I have actually taken quite a different route to how most people crack their slabs. So going over the first card here that I'm doing right now, you can see the first thing, I'm actually using a hacksaw. So this was my first tester card. This was a card I did not care about whatsoever. Obviously, although I'm comfortable with tools, I haven't ever done this before, so I wanted to just do a test first on a card that I didn't care about in case it got damaged before I went on to cracking these other SGC CSG 9.5s that I will be sending away. This was just a complete test card. So you can see what I'm doing here. I am using a hacksaw and I'm cutting off the corners for both of the top corners. I've seen people with whether they're pliers or some other sort of strong clippers, they tend to clip off the corners and they tend to basically try and crack the slab that way. For me, the biggest worry and the biggest cause of damage, in my opinion, is always going to be, when you're using clippers, is the shattering of the front side of the case, the front side of the slab itself. That for me is the biggest worry. So what I thought I would do, that's exactly why I thought I would use the hacksaw. So I've used the hacksaw, I've trimmed off the corners, and now I'm using a flat edge chisel. I chose a chisel over a flat edge screwdriver just because the chisel has a bigger surface area. So it's, as again, less chance of cracking that front side of the slab. Got more surface area to pry the slab up. So as you can see, I've got it pried up here now, and I'm literally just peeling away that slab. But you can see it got caught on the back side, and I actually did, unfortunately, damage this card. We'll see if we can go back here. So the damage happened right there. You can see where it's cracked away. It actually put an indent into the card, into the bottom left-hand corner. So this was an unsuccessful first attempt. We'll go on to the next one now. And just before I get into this one, guys, you can see I'm actually cutting it on top of a cardboard box. That way, I just thought a softer surface area in case, you never know what happens if the card drops out. I have seen people use towels and things like that underneath the slab when they're trying to crack it out. I just opted personally for this cardboard box in order to cut on instead of a workbench. But you'll see now with this second attempt, what I'm actually chosen to do after the failed first attempt, I decided to actually cut along the whole edge, the whole top edge of the card. So this is completely safe. You're nowhere near the card itself. You still have 2-3 centimeters away from the top of anywhere of the card when you're doing this. So this was completely safe in my opinion. And I chose to do this instead because, in my opinion, it cracked out the first time. The face edge did not lift up completely because it was still hanging on in the middle at the top of the slab. So this way, what I'm doing this time is I'm actually, as I said, I've cut the whole top edge away from the slab, and now I can put that chisel in that flat edge surface, and I can slowly just lift away the front face of the slab away from the back. And you can hear it crack, you can hear it creak, and basically you don't want to be pushing it too far. You do not want to be too aggressive with it, but you want to take your time. So I've cracked it quite a fair bit now with a chisel, and I was confident enough that I could use my hands and delicately ply the case away for the rest. This one was a much better success from the first one because the front side of the slab actually came away from the back side of the slab, and it did not crack whatsoever. It did not break in any spots. You'll then carefully lift away the card, put it in a penny sleeve, and then straight into a top loader. So these were my 2 practice ones. I did do 2 practice ones to start with because, as I said, that first practice, it was a fail. So going with the second method of cutting away the whole top edge of the slab, I wanted to practice that first before getting into the cards that I actually want to send away for grading now. So this is the first card that I am cracking out to send away. It is a CSG 9.5. It's the 2020 Bloodlines Conor McGregor. It's just a base card, not numbered. So I'm going now along with the same method that I did successfully the second time around, and I am completely cutting away that top edge of the slab with the hacksaw. So once that's been cut away, I'm going to clean away those bits of plastic burrs that have actually came as a result of cutting the slab. Just going to cut them away in case, just to clean up the surface as much as possible. I don't want to start cracking away the slab and have one of those burrs of plastic fall in between the slab itself when I'm trying to pry it away. Getting a penny sleeve here ready, of course. One other tip would be to continually clean the surface, whatever bench you're working on, whether it's a towel, whether it's any sort of workbench. Obviously, I'm using a cardboard box here, as I said before, but you want to keep that surface as clean as possible because, as I said, anything can happen in this process, and you do not want to drop the card on a dirty surface. So slowly just trying to pry up that top edge with the chisel. When I feel it, you can feel it give way in spots, I then move on to another spot. Basically, by the time I cracked away that top whole front edge, I felt the case itself pop, and then you can just finish it off with your hands. Obviously, much safer to do as much with your hands with your own fingers than what you can with tools to minimize the risk of damage. So this was my third attempt now, as you can see, and after this time I was very well confident enough that I can now start getting into all the other cards without a problem. So the first card was the Select Premier Level Silver SGC 9.5. Interesting to note, this actually was my first SGC slab. The 3 others before this were all CSGs, but I went with the same method, as I just truly believe if you are going to attempt this at home, and definitely a disclaimer, if you are not at all comfortable with hand tools, I would 100% not recommend that you guys do this. As I said, I've been working with tools for over 17 years now, so very confident in using hand tools, things like that. And even I was a little bit nervous. And as I said, that first attempt I did screw up. But after learning from that mistake, going with this newer technique, and as I said, I really recommend not having to use pliers, not risk cracking any sort of face edge or back edge of the slab if possible. And then, as you can see, just pry slowly, carefully. You don't need to rush this part. Just pry up the case from each other. You'll feel it give away a little bit, and then you just move on to another spot if needed. I didn't feel this was needed. At this point, I could just carefully just separate the two together, trying to keep the card as flat as possible. And look at that, popping that front edge away. So after popping that front edge away, I actually found it the hardest part of this. Once figuring out the other way, this second way here, After figuring out exactly how to cut the slab prior to weigh, just actually having to remove the card from the back edge of the slab. Obviously, you have to be very delicate with it. So that was the second card now and the first SGC slab. I did notice straight away the SGC slabs happen to actually pop a bit easier than what the CSG slabs. Not sure why it was, but I just felt that the SGC slabs didn't need as much prying open as what the CSG slabs needed. We're going with the next SGC 9.5 now. It is the Select Concourse Conor McGregor Silver. Once again, using the hacksaw, cutting away that top edge of the slab itself. Doing the cutting process, once again, it does cause those little burrs of plastic. It in some ways is a little bit messier than what you do with the typical plier crack out solution, but I really just recommend trying to avoid having that case crack out in multiple pieces. It's just super dangerous in my opinion. So just clean away those burrs, clean away your surface that you're working on there, as I just have now. And now we will pry this one out. So prying this one away now, guys, as I have with the rest. As I said, went with the chisel option instead of a flat edge screwdriver just because you have more surface area, which for me and is important in order to pry up something as safely as possible. Less chance of the case itself splitting. This one, once again, once prying up that top edge, I was able just to remove the rest of the front cover with my fingers, which minimizes the chance of any sort of damage. Now, while I sleeve this one up, I will just talk about actually why I bought these cards in particular. We all know that Conor McGregor will be coming up in the next season of The Ultimate Fighter against Michael Chandler. That show itself will be airing every Tuesday night, I believe, on ESPN. That is a massive, massive deal in my opinion. I think Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, the UFC in itself is going to get a lot more promotion. It's going to get a lot more airtime on primetime ESPN, which is a big deal and a first. And that's going to bring a lot more eyes on the UFC, but it's going to bring a lot more eyes. Conor McGregor is already the most popular fighter in the UFC by a long, long way. And he is just bound at some point to be saying some crazy one-liners that are going to go viral and draw more attention to the show, draw more attention to the UFC, and hopefully bring more attention to his UFC card market. So I chose all these cards in particular because they were quite cheap to pick up. The SGC 9.5s, it was the first year, debut year for Select. My thinking was buying debut year of Select and also Panini is more desirable in my opinion than what it is to buy a second year, because when you have guys who could potentially be wanting to buy into Conor McGregor coming in from other sports, they care about debut years just as much as what every other collector does, as much as every other investor does. Why buy a second year Select when you can buy a first year Select? That is the stuff, as I said, that I think is very important. These cards themselves, I was able to buy at very good prices. I think those two SGC 9.5s of the Conor McGregors, they were both silvers. And I do believe I bought them for less than $40. So for me, if I can get those turned over to PSA 10s, I think they could be potentially at least $100 cards if Conor McGregor does have a big prime time on ESPN and also leading up to his next fight. Guys, I saved the big one for me for last. When I say big, I mean it's not that big, but for me, I think this is the card that could have the most return value. It is the Conor McGregor debut Green Prism, also a 9.5. This one for me, I think this could be closer to a $200 card towards the end of the year, but we'll see. So this was the one out of all of them I was probably a little bit more nervous about. I did not want to damage this card, so I did take a little bit more time with this one, but I was glad that I had left it to last, getting in the practice with all the other ones before that. Cutting that top edge away again, as you can see, well away from any edge of the card, completely safe. Cleaning away those cleaning away those plastic burrs from cutting it. Cleaning away the surface now. And now it's time to pop this bad boy open. So this Conor McGregor green prism, 9.5, hoping to get a PSA 10. Once again, debut Panini prism. And it's a green, colour match for the King of Ireland. Green is obviously the patriotic colour of Ireland. So that was my thinking as well, along with getting this card. What the value of this card will be if I happen to get a 10. Even if I get a 9, I think with the increase of demand that I think will surely come in the future for Conor McGregor, I don't think I'll lose out on this either way in this card. I think I paid around $70 for this card, hoping for a projected value of at least 150 if it gets a PSA 10, but we'll see. So I've pried it open now. As you can see, I'm actually taking as much care as possible with this one, holding the back edge of the slab down on the cardboard box while trying to pull up the front edge just to absolutely minimize any risk. We can see it pop open there now. Carefully picking up the card, putting it straight in a penny sleeve. So there we have it, guys. That is my cracking slab process. That's how I recommend to do it if you are indeed going to give it a try. But once again, definitely if you are not comfortable with using tools, maybe you can get some cheap slabs to give yourself a practice. But I just must have to disclaimer, it is not a process that you do not want to do if you are not comfortable with tools. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I'll see you again next week here at UFC Card Talk.
Wilson! Wilson! I'm sorry!